Hey there, just wanted to talk a little bit about my Quartertone guitar I just finished making. Simple, pretty simple build to go ahead and get done on it. All I did is quartertones. You're basically taking our Western octave that we have and those 12 divisions per octave, and now with quartertones you're going to put another note in between each of those. So now, like from F sharp to G, there's really, in our Western tuning and temperament, there's no note in between that. You're either going F sharp or G, and so now you're actually going to add a note in between that, as well as 11 more new notes, which is pretty interesting. It opens up, lets you do a lot of more Easternized scales, something of that nature. Even if you want to get into like sort of Bela Bartok composition, Charles Ives composition, tons like that. Usually you'll see it written, kind of popular will be pianos, with two pianos, one tuned a quarter tone above. Fretless instruments are pretty easy because violin or something, you have pretty much you can do a permanent glissando wherever on that, and you can get those quarter tones and even smaller microtones essentially in between each note of those, and that's can be one of the obstacles when you're learning to play, is where each note goes. Or even on a fretless guitar, well, here's my fret where I would normally play C in standard tuning, but now without frets, you kind of, hopefully that muscle memory will kick in and show you where it is, and once you have that down, you can learn, well there's a separation here, but what if I were to play a note here and see that note in between? It's not quite a C flat, not quite a C. And so with the quarter tone tuning, you're actually defining each of those pitches into something with 24 representations and note names for each of those, new intervals, new chord possibilities, lots of stuff you can do with that. So I went ahead, fairly simple to do, no real major supplies needed. I mean, the guitar was helpful. I was debating going out and getting a little beaten up guitar, work on it, kind of no biggie project if something were to not go very well on it. But I actually, researching this, I had found a good video, not too much talking or description in it, but in one of the comments I think he had talked about, and had shown in his video, he had taken essentially this, he was calling it satellite wire. I didn't know what quite was meant by that, so I just got this Ace Hardware, super simple, 18 gauge aluminum wire. You can get it in bronze. I got the silver, matches the frets a little better, going for that aesthetic feel on it, I suppose, somewhat at least. And then the gauge fit really well for these frets, just due to their size and how they've been dressed and with their crown and stuff. I was planning to use this on another guitar, that white one I have back there, and putting one on and testing it, the frets were actually too low on it compared to the wire, so it was just permanently buzzy, which was kind of a bummer, and ended up that didn't work out. So I figured it's okay to go ahead and do it on here. This originally had this tuned down, but it's pretty cool, something new to get into. That aluminum wire, I just took it, cut it about fret a little wider than your fret length, like if you were doing regular fretwork and cutting it from a longer piece. Measured each of those out with a program I found online and had seen posted through 7string.org in the forums there, called Fret Calc. Super handy. You can do it online. I think if you download it though, you get a bit more possibilities on what you can do, because it lets you actually choose your scale length than if you were to use 8-string guitar with a little bit more extended range or something, where the scale length differs compared to something like this Fender, something like Gibson with a standard, or that's Ibanez with a standard 25.5-inch scale length. And so went ahead and let me show you, plug that in, and it'll let you choose how many frets you want to do per octave. In this case it's going to be 24. You're doubling it to get those quarter tones. How many frets you want total. If you had a 24 fret guitar originally, wanted to go up to 48 frets or something, I'll actually show you. I left these last above that first octave on the guitar, I left those undone because they do get quite small, and then just that way you kind of have a bit of what you're used to up here versus all quarter tone guitar, which I think is kind of nice. So here it is. You can print it out. It gives you a little sheet of values on how big each thing is supposed to be. Each fret is supposed to be either the length from the nut or the length from fret to fret as it decreases as you go up. Went ahead and measured that in millimeters. Pretty precise. I checked a few. I had done like that video that I'll post up here and hopefully should have done before. Tested it, wrapping the satellite wire around it, and checked to see each of them. It's going to be, when you do in Quartertones, it's going to be about 50 cents per each note. So if you want to check that with a tuner of some sort and try and get an eye of where it was, but just going from that paper and checking that fret calc got it pretty straight on. So after that, I've gotten a little into playing it. Haven't played it too much yet today. Learning everything and learning about like what chords would be called and what intervals would be and stuff. So I'll go ahead and show you that. Alright, so when I was first looking at how things would be notated, I assume you can, I'll post more in this lovely empty space here, so handy, some more links of that, of notations, interval names and stuff like that. Google, internet, pretty barren as far as like guitar and quarter tone stuff goes for reading in English. I suppose it was a little lacking in resources compared to other things, tabs and standard tuning or something. But I managed to pull together a bit, and hopefully I can give a few good resources either up there or down in the description below. But it's really neat to see, and so you can have all your regular notes if you wanted to, so just like maybe a little D minor descending sort of thing, just with a quarter tone thrown in there. You can mix the notes together from quarter tones to regular tuning, which can kind of give us cool glissando effect if you were to slide in between them, because now instead of just going from, say, like if you do like to resolve that sort of thing, you can now do, if you were to do like, and it kind of, it's like it's odd to our ears and it sounds out of tune, but it's actually a definite pitch, and that one right there actually in standard tuning is going to be what's called E quarter flat. And so that's kind of neat, because then you go quarter flat to the regular flat, 3/4 flat, which is actually called a quarter sharp and harmonically now, and then you have your regular note under that, which would be D. So you can mix it. There's a lot of, I'm trying to get into it, learning the different names of scales and stuff. So far the only one I know is called Rast, R-A-S-T, and it's a Eastern sounding scale. And I also know that common in those scales, like if we were to play our melodic minor and do like, minus the buzzing, hopefully you get that fixed soon, but that's sort of a harmonic minor or regular minor scale. Popular there is actually with these quarter tones now, is that second scale degree there, you actually flat it by a quarter. And so instead of going from, in this case, A up one step, which would go up to your A to B, and doing that, you're actually doing B quarter flat, which it gives it a kind of cool tone. So it'd be something to this extent, like. I think I played one wrong note there, getting the hang of having all these extra frets still. But so now you have, instead of the, you have, so you can just hear a little bit of a difference on each of those frets. And as you go up, I found the difference gets kind of smaller, where if you were to be down here and do like, you can hear it sort of gradually change. But when you get up here to these higher frets, it's a lot smaller of a change. Even though it's still supposed to be 50 cents, it sounds a little bit less distinguishable, to my ear at least. And so it's got a little bit of a new field to try and learn how everything works on it, but overall I think it's pretty neat. Mostly what I was interested in, I've been getting into a lot of, again, Bella Bartok, Arnold Schoenberg, stuff like composers like that with serialism. Milton Babbitt, you can look at him for a little bit more modern take on it, electronic wise. But the whole serialism aspect to it of composition, and this kind of came up from it. I had looked in before into like 1910 guitar tuning and stuff with refretting, and this worked out kind of neat. And I saw one page, I'll go ahead and I'll post it over here this time, a link to or some resources for serialism with Quartertone. It's a basic web page right now. I don't know if it's active still or not, but something I stumbled across today and show you that. But actually I went ahead and wrote myself out a little reminder sheet on good old staff paper of what things would be called, which is kind of neat, because I was wondering, well, like what would chords be named, for instance. So normally if you have your A major chord, I'll play it an octave up, an A major like this. That's pretty well major sounding to a trained ear or an untrained ear. Some might even be able to name the note that is without even knowing. You might say that's an A major. This one's minor sounding, definitely A minor, obviously. And so there's a difference between those two. It's obviously, if you know a little bit of your theory, it's your third degree of that scale that you're using. If you're using A minor, it's going to be your third degree, that's C. If it's a C sharp or a C natural, which lends the chord what type it's going to be, major or minor. But now on here, if we come back down here to give me access to those quarter tones again, you can play a regular A major, major sounding. You can also play your minor, you have access to those frets as well still. But now in between that, what if I were to not play a C sharp and not quite a C, but instead play what would be a C quarter sharp? And so you can kind of hear that, it would be like this. So not quite major, not quite minor, and that would actually be, I don't want to get it wrong here if I say it, I believe it's an A chord of some type, but let me go ahead and check my intervals. Yeah, in between minor and major you have what's called a neutral third, and so I guess you would refer to that chord as an A neutral chord. Not quite major or minor. This I would call a sub minor if you were to move it down to the C quarter flat. Kind of different take on it, a little like gives you a new sort of texture and sonority of those to explore, which is super neat. And you can get into, I'd written some more down here that I'd looked at, kind of naming them, because you have now, instead of just major, minor, diminished, augmented intervals like that, you actually have sub minor, super major, and then now when you have a perfect fifth and a perfect fourth, you actually have now what's going to be major fourth, major fifth, minor fifth, which is, I think, pretty neat. And then your neutral intervals as well, which I have. You can have that on a third, on a sixth you can have a neutral, and a seventh you can have neutral, which is neutral second as well, which is really neat for that whole new textural aspect of it all. So you can get a real, instead of just like with just that raised 7th degree half step up back to the E, you can actually do a quarter step up to it. Or if you want to extend that a little, you can actually do what would be 1.5 steps to it, or my bad, I'm sorry, 3/4 of a step to it. And lets you open up those whole new intervals or scalar possibilities that you can use. And actually, Zen Harmonic Wiki, there's a lot of good information on stuff like that, interval-wise, scale-wise, so many scales that I saw on there that I'd never heard of, like with modes and stuff. I mean, I heard of modes, but these new modes that they have on there were certainly interesting to hear about. And I found that with a couple intervals, some of them are actually sound a bit more favorable than the standard ones you're used to. I've actually really been liking what would be the neutral sixth, I suppose, which would be, in this case, I don't want to get it wrong, from E to A quarter sharp. So, not quite A sharp. Which I kind of like versus the... So, a little bit of a difference at 50 cents, so just hearing it might be a little difficult step to step on each of those, quarter tone to quarter tone. But definitely a couple intervals sound different than you're used to. I am liking also this sub minor second, so just from E to E quarter sharp. I'm really liking that, especially with like gives you a real kind of nice beating effect if you like FM synthesis wise or detuned oscillator wise. You know, like if you were to be tuning your string up or something and sound both of those at once, but now it's a definite pitch that you can play. It's not string bending up to it. If you were to do from the E flat, like up to unison or something like that. And so lots of new possibilities. Some of these chords I'd written down here, just coming up with odd intervals or voicings and stuff with new, the quarter sharp or quarter flat or 1 1/4 is really neat. I have one here that I like, sound a pretty wordy name, is I would call it a C neutral major 5 add super major 9, which is pretty wordy. And what notes that would be, from what I've kind of come up as a sort of notation, is going to be C natural as your root, and then for the neutral third, I would say that would be the neutral third interval above that would be an E quarter flat, and then for the major fifth, which are used to the perfect fifth, but this would be a major fifth, would be the G quarter sharp, and then the add super major 9 aspect of that would be is just a D quarter sharp. So not quite an add 9 that you're used to if you were to do something like, but what I believe it would be is something like this. Kind of neat sounding for those. So lots of neat chords. I'll try and I'll post a link to that where I'll scan this in and have a sort of resource available for that to use. I hope to get more into it. Hope this has been helpful. I want to be able to learn some new scales, different pedagogy of music to play, and hopefully get some neat stuff posted on that, original stuff that I'll learn in the future. But so far really liking the guitar, super neat with the new possibilities, and really interesting thing to get into. Go ahead, you can message me, comment questions or anything, and I'll try and help you out just learning it myself, but hopefully I can find some others, or hopefully you found something new and interesting out of this. So thanks.